All right, I already did a general interest video about Zurich, but I wanted to zoom in on the James Joyce areas, of which there are several, quite a few. James Joyce lived here for many years and wrote here and a lot of things. So let's look first at the cemetery where James Joyce is buried, because he died here, in Fluntern, I believe it's pronounced. It's pretty high in the city. It's, yeah, you should make your way up there, take the tram, drive, or whatever, and check it out. It's a beautiful location. This is the most famous grave there, and you can't miss it. It's kind of hard to read the tombstone, but Joyce is buried there, his wife Nora, and his son Giorgio, and Giorgio's wife, I believe. And yeah, it's the most essential. But aside from that, there's also another location that is pretty essential, the James Joyce, Zurich James Joyce Foundation.
Hi, I'm Ursula. I'm a curator in this place. This is we are the James Joyce Foundation in Zurich. The foundation was founded in the 80s, and half of all the books that we have here were the private library of one of the Joyce pioneers, who happened to be a Swiss, a person from Zurich. And in the 80s, it was open to the public. It was transferred to this place and made into a private cultural foundation. I think by now we are the largest research library on Joyce in Europe. We collect all books published on Joyce in English, German, and a couple of other languages. We have a large collection of translations. This is one of our special interests, of course. We teach on Joyce, we introduce aficionados to Joyce's works, literary aficionados to Joyce's works. So, and we are in a German-speaking country, so of course it's makes sense also to focus on Joycean translations. Joyce lived here he came to Zurich. When he left Ireland, he came to Zurich. He thought he had a job here at the Berlitz School as an English teacher, and it turned out to be a mistake. The job was actually in Trieste, so Joyce and Nora left Zurich just after a week here, and they spent more than a decade in Trieste. And during the war, the First World War, they had to come back. They had to leave Austria. Trieste was still part of the Austrian Empire back then. And as a British citizen, he had to leave. You know, they kind of were on opposite sides in the war, so he had to leave Trieste, and he came back to Zurich and spent the war years here in Zurich. And this is where he wrote a good part of Ulysses. He wrote the first half of Ulysses, more or less, here in Zurich, up to the Nausicaa chapter. There are some Swiss-German elements in the Cyclops chapter, in the parade of delegates from all the countries, the Friends of the Emerald Isle. There's a beautiful Swiss-German element there. And Zurich is also important for, well, it found its way into Ulysses. Well, you have to know the story. There's a biographical anecdote. He fell in love with one of his neighbors, with a young woman, Martha Fleischmann, and he was just struck by the similarity to someone he had known in his youth in Ireland, and so he started an affair with her. But I think he staged it more than he basically staged it because he was artistically at a difficult point, so he had a writer's block, I think, and so he staged this affair with Martha Fleischmann, who became a model for Gertie McDowell in the Nausicaa chapter. And he wrote her all these letters in French and German. She didn't speak English. They're full of pathos and kitsch even, I would say, and surprisingly, you find certain elements in the Nausicaa chapter, both what concerns the his Gertie McDowell as character, and also on a linguistic or on a formal level. They're also. So there's a striking similarity between the letters and the text of the Nausicaa chapter.
And what do you recommend, besides the Joyce Center here, besides this, where do you recommend people visit in Zurich? What is that? Must-see places to go.
Well, of course, the pilgrimage up to the grave. It's up at the zoo, so you take a tram up there to Joyce's grave. As you know, he is buried here, and so is Nora. They're both buried here, and as well as their son Giorgio and Giorgio's wife. They're all here in Zurich, buried here up at Flunten Cemetery. And another place to visit is the so-called Platzspitz, the meeting of the waters, as Joyce called it. This is where the two Zurich rivers, Limmat and Seal, meet. And this place reminded him of Ireland and of the Thomas Moore song. He loved all the Thomas Moore's songs, as he loved all music, and especially also traditional Irish music. Found its way into Finnegan's Wake. Of course, Finnegan's Wake is full of Thomas Moore songs, and one of them is entitled The Meeting of the Waters. And this is the Zurich Meeting of the Waters. And there's an installation at this place by a Swiss artist who's very interested in Joyce, has done a lot of work on Joyce, and you'll find one of his works there. And of course, there are also other places. Most of the houses where Joyce lived in Zurich are also still there. A few have been demolished, but you should go up to Universitätsstraße, number 29 and number 38. This is where he wrote the Zurich part of Ulysses. This is Joyce. This is the only work by Joyce that has been translated into the Swiss, one of the 4 Swiss national languages, Rätoromanisch. I don't know the English word for this. Rätoromance. It's a letter. It's based on Joyce's letter to his grandson Stephen.
Yeah, my name is Hamid. And actually, I really love the way that history has been just shaped in Joyce's work. And this is why my recent research also focuses on history, mythology, and Joyce.
How did you discover James Joyce?
Yeah, I discovered it when I was a student, a master's student in world literature. So in world literature, we study different texts. And suddenly I came across with Joyce's work, Ulysses, that I found it that I can't read it at all. It was impossible for me. And then my supervisor told me that if it is difficult for you, then you should just turn to Finnegan's Wake to see the meaning of difficult. So that was the point that I started to become interested in his works.
You are from Iran. How well known is James Joyce in Iran?
Yeah, actually, he's very well known, and his works have been published in Persian language. One of them is this one. You can see that. James Joyce, Dubliniha, Dubliners, that translated into Persian language. This is the center of Joyce in the world, I can say. Yeah, just a lot of books, a lot of very well archived. Just everybody can find anything related to Joyce here. And of course, with very well and professional archivists and librarians here, like Ursula that you had just on conversation with. Very professional and very knowledgeable. And if you come here, you will have just the privilege of meeting Fritz, who is one of the well-known Joyceans in the world.
They showed me a signed first edition of Ulysses, which would probably sell for over $100,000 if they were selling it. And how many copies of the first edition were they printed?
1,000 copies.
Wow. What does it say? To
Helene Vogt, James Joyce, Whitsuntide, 1930, Zurich. So this came to Zurich, fairly early. And this is a note in pencil by her father, Helene Vogt's father, Professor Vogt. He was a famous ophthalmologist in Zurich at the University Hospital, and he operated Joyce's eyes.
what does it say?
It says, it's in German, and it says Geschenk des Autors 3 Wochen nach der Spaltung. So what it says, it's a gift from the author, and 3 weeks after the operation, and then there is some medical jargon, what exactly he did on Joyce's eyes. Nach der Spaltung links, blah blah blah. And he, Joyce, said to me, i.e. Professor Vogt, you are lucky, Sie haben Glück, Sie bekommen noch das letzte Exemplar der ersten Auflage. Not just, this is the last copy in Joyce's possession from the first edition, first printing. The first edition had several printings. And Joyce parted with his last copy from that edition, for the first printing, to give it to Professor Vogt as a token of gratitude for saving his eyesight. So this is copy number 225, one of 1,000 copies.
If you look on the website of the Zurich James Joyce Foundation, and I'll provide a link below, they have a wonderful collection of locations and historic photos of places that Joyce lived in Zurich and places that he just visited or hung out at, things like that, that relate to his books. And you should definitely check it out if you have a lot of time in Zurich and want to explore. I only had one full day, so I went to as many as I could. For the most part, I would say they're non-essential because a lot of them have been changed, they've been renovated, or they're just completely newer buildings and they don't look anything like they did in Joyce's day. But they will give you an idea of where he lived in the city. But there is one that I would say is pretty essential, and that's the one on Universitätsstraße. And this is a location they've commemorated with a plaque because it shows that this is where a large portion of Ulysses was written. So I would say this location, along with Joyce's gravesite and the Zurich James Joyce Foundation, are the three essential places in Zurich that you should visit if you're interested in James Joyce.
این بار دیگر امیدی به او نبود. سکته سوم بود. شب‌های پیاپی از کنار خانه گذشته بودم. زمان تعطیلی مدرسه بود و مربع روشن پنجره را بررسی کرده بودم و شب‌های پیاپی به همان گونه که بود